Heather, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hi, Carmen.
I should say Doc Heather instead of Heather. How are you? How are you today? Are you doing well?
I'm doing great. I live at the beach in California, so I can't complain.
So every day's a holiday, right? Every day's Christmas on the beach.
Yeah, a warm
it probably
Christmas.
feels that way. Oh, well, thank you for being part of the Healthy Kids Revolution Summit. We are so excited to have you here today, and I want to just share with the audience that hopefully they read your bio when they were looking through the Healthy Kids Revolution website to see, but it's really fun to just say you are just so connected with these stars. I think that is just fabulous, all the things that you're doing on Blog Talk Radio, the award-winning celebrities that you have dealt with. I'm sure that's a whole nother story. That would be a whole nother interview, I'm sure.
Yes.
But love the fact that you spent all this time studying Chinese medicine, graduated summa cum laude from the Emperor's College for Traditional Chinese Medicine, and I think the reason I'm so excited to have you here today is because we don't have anyone else on the panel of experts talking about Chinese medicine, and I think for a lot of people, that's what we don't know we're often afraid of, and so I'm hoping today that you might just add some really simple insights for our audience so that they don't feel threatened by Chinese medicine, that they sort of start to understand that Chinese medicine, Chinese nutrition, so to speak, is something that is really not that complicated if you can start to understand what's available in our markets and how it should be used to help grow healthy children. And that's obviously everyone's ultimate goal in this call is for us to really grow a healthy nation of healthy children. So I would love to turn it over to you for a minute and have you talk to our audience and just sort of give us the real rundown on who you are and why you're passionate about what you're doing.
Okay, so my name's Heather Lounsbury, and I am a licensed acupuncturist and nutritionist in California. And I started studying nutrition in high school. I had a few sort of health crises that my pediatrician gave me no help on. I decided to go vegetarian, and in the early 80s there wasn't many resources for that. So the first few years I was kind of anemic and didn't know what I was doing, but, I finally persevered and figured out how it would work for me. And I also got a severe case of mono, which makes you sleep all the time, and my doctor had no answers for that either, so he said, there's nothing you can do, you just have to be sick until it's gone. And I didn't get the answers then, but I've since found out that there are plenty of things you can do to help heal more quickly from illnesses such as mono or prevent it happening altogether. So that definitely sparked my interest into researching herbs and nutrition even more. And with that, I worked at a food co-op at the University of Maryland where there were people there much older than me that have been, living this life for decades, and we're all about holistic medicine and alternative therapies, and that got me so excited that I decided to kind of do it for a living. When I finished undergrad, I moved to California and realized I wanted to be a physician for a living and chose Chinese medicine because I felt like it was, for me, the best way to help people because I can combine acupuncture, herbs, nutrition, and lifestyle counseling. So, that combination seems to work really well with pretty much everybody.
Okay.
So I'm passionate about it just because I had my own experiences with Western medicine that weren't so great. Not to say that every MD wouldn't have answers, but from my own personal experience and several of my patients, Western medicine is great for, emergency and life-threatening situations, but to live healthy and prevent getting these more serious illnesses, they don't really have the answers yet. So that's why I love to do what I do. And I have, as you mentioned, that, Chinese medicine is so foreign and kind of scary to people. Well, that's one of the reasons I have videos on my website showing how easy it is to do acupuncture, that it doesn't hurt at all, and most people fall asleep once their needles are in. So I encourage people, if they're afraid of needles, if that's what gets them away from an acupuncturist, it's virtually painless, and once the needles are in, you don't feel them at all.
Okay. Awesome. So that's a wonderful resource you have for the folks, and they can see on the slide. You can find Doc Heather at livenaturallivewell.com. And, you know, the real goal of the summit today, we're going to talk about healthy children and, you know, boosting the immune system. So as far as Chinese nutrition, what can you tell us about what you've seen to be successful in helping children just be healthy and live naturally through eating what's provided by the earth?
Well, that's definitely a great question, and that could take the whole time
to
answer. Yeah, but I'll try to keep it concise.
Okay.
I do treat a lot of children. I'm not a specialist in pediatrics, and one of the reasons I didn't choose that as my specialty was seeing kids. I always take home their suffering with me, so it was hard to make it like 100% of my practice. But I can say, you know, kids respond really well to Chinese medicine, and actually much better than adults do, because they haven't done as much damage to their bodies, and they also don't have any preconceived ideas of what's going to work and what's not going to work. But kids can thrive on Chinese medicine. Like if you have a child with autism or suffering from asthma, Chinese medicine is definitely the way to go. And some examples would be that cooking with herbs and spices that support the immune system are always a great idea. So, and it might be something that you kind of have to sneak in, since kids can be very picky about what they're going to eat. But just adding a little bit of ginger to their morning smoothie is a great example. I know Western medicine has kind of caught on with how beneficial ginger can be, but it's because I know most of us grew up having ginger ale when we had an upset tummy. We never knew really why, and it's because ginger does drastically reduce nausea, but it also boosts the immune system and can kill bacteria and parasites. So ginger is something.
I was wondering how it actually happens. You know, I think probably the parents will want to know that. What does ginger actually do? So you said it actually kills the bacteria and parasites in the body.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons ginger is served with sushi. I'm not a fan of sushi. So go and have it, but it kills.
Makes perfect sense.
It kills parasites.
So eat your ginger. Make sure you eat it. Most people leave it on the plate, you know.
Yes,
when
exactly.
they have their sushi. So that's a good, wonderful tip there. So
yes.
Ginger is one that drastically reduces. Okay, and what else have you?
Cinnamon is also in the Chinese herbal pharmacy, and that helps with infection, and especially if you have chills and fever. That cinnamon is great. So that's something you could put on. It also balances blood sugar, so that's something you could put again in a smoothie or baked goods. And I love it on sweet potatoes or yams.
Okay.
So cinnamon's another great one. And sweet potatoes in general are full of vitamin C and beta carotene, so those are also great options. And kids usually like sweet potatoes, especially if you add the cinnamon to it, because it's sweet. Kids love their sugar. And also, if you can get your child to have garlic, this is more of a Western way of looking at nutrition, but garlic is a natural antibiotic as well. So I know some kids they might not like that strong of a taste, but even adding a little bit to soup, especially if your kids are sick, it's a great way to fight their colds.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so there's obviously a lot of things that we know about that are out there, but I think when we answer the reason why are these things important, such as in a couple of the other expert interviews, we talked about the science of the cells and how our cells, absorb nutrients. And if our cells are inflamed because we've put a lot of toxins in our body, whether it be dyes or chemicals or whatnot, when those cells are inflamed, they can't get nutrition, and people start to realize, that food is making a difference in my body. So hopefully, as you and I continue to have this interview today, we can explain to the audience again the effects inside the body, like ginger, what it's doing, and hopefully people will take away that ginger is just not something that tastes kind of strange and cleanses my palate after sushi. There's actually a medicinal benefit to this particular root. And then for the lemons, again, we know what lemons taste like, but do we know that lemons actually help reduce the chills and fever? And do we know that cinnamon balances out the blood sugar? I think those are really wonderful points you've brought in, and hopefully we can continue in that vein to explain to parents why these elements are important to get into our child's daily routine, a daily habit of whatever they're having to eat.
Right. And so I hope those are some good examples for parents. And then another big one, and this is something Chinese knew thousands of years ago, but most people from Asian descent are lactose intolerant. But dairy contributes to phlegm and mucus formation. So if your kids are sick, you definitely want to keep them away from dairy because that's just going to contribute to mucus in their lungs and sinuses. And this is something Chinese medicine knew thousands of years ago. So if that hasn't already been mentioned.
Okay. And you earlier on you mentioned autism and asthma. And how about allergies and maybe ADHD and things like that? I'm sure we have parents that are listening to the call today that have kids that probably are hyperactive, probably maybe just don't seem to be as healthy as they would like them to be, maybe a little bit lethargic. And speaking, I guess maybe let's start out with maybe the hyperactivity. Are there any special herbs or vegetables or any kind of foods that you know of that really would help a parent with a child that has that symptom?
Yes, hyperactivity and ADD can definitely be helped through diet. In Chinese terms, again, I would recommend staying away from dairy and especially sugar, any kind of stimulant. But in Chinese medicine, there's foods that have a calming quality, and we're just starting to find out in Western terms why those foods might be calming, like a certain nutrient in there works well with brain chemistry to calm you down. But again, Chinese nutrition knew this 5,000 years ago, so it's pretty fascinating how they were able to do that because we don't really have the answers. Like, how did these guys thousands of years ago, living in caves, know this stuff? I would love to get an answer to someday. But root vegetables are really great for calming. So beets, yams, parsnips, radish, carrots, so anything that grows underground is great for calming. So if you can get your kids to eat some root veggies, and there's usually at least one that you can get, which is the little ones to indulge in, especially they can have like a sweet quality to them. That would be a great idea. And see what else for calming besides root vegetables. Something like cinnamon can actually make them a little more energetic, so it's not something that it's not I would say extreme, but it gets blood swelling. So if someone's really sensitive to that, I would keep that in mind. And then when it comes to asthma, you want something like pears. I know it might seem kind of strange that pears help with lung function, but pears are really good for treating lungs and asthma. And what was your...
how about allergies?
Allergies.
Like maybe seasonal allergies, where we're in a pollen haven right now in the South, where spring has sprung, and the world is blanketed in yellow right now. You can hardly breathe or blink your eyes. And so I'm just wondering, is there something from the Chinese nutritional side that helps with that type of environment?
Well, you want to do things that boost the immune system and detoxify the body. In Chinese medicine, they also knew that dark leafy greens were great for supporting the liver, which is where you do most of your detoxifying. So if you can even sneak some spinach or kale into your kid's morning smoothie, that would be a great thing. And then also a great way to sneak in greens is to puree them in soups. And also have them, this isn't a Chinese thing, but I always recommend parents having their kids participate. in the cooking process and make it fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also don't look at that. Look at foods like as a reward or a punishment, because that's something that will definitely stick with them. Okay, and then back to specifically immune boosting for allergies. I would say if you can get your kids to eat leafy, flowery type foods, and cilantro is a great one for that, and parsley.
Okay. What is a leafy flowery? Would you consider, like cilantro doesn't have a flower on it per se, right? So what would be a leafy flowery vegetable? Like a dandelion green or?
A dandelion green is the perfect example.
Okay.
Or even eating edible flowers, which might
like
be strange.
Pansies?
But,
Don't people eat pansies?
Excuse me?
I thought I've seen there's a restaurant in our town called Noble's, which was a very fancy restaurant, and they would serve salads with pansy leaves. You know, the little pansy flower. They would pull pansy leaves off and serve those. So when you said flowering, you know, leafy flowering things, and I immediately thought of the pansies on the salad. So that was one. Maybe that's not. Maybe pansies don't grow over in China. I'm not sure. And maybe that's a Western treat we can throw in, but there are edible flowers.
Yes.
So I think people.
And that can be kind of fun for kids to eat them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think you did it right
something
there.
Like
making it fun.
Yeah. Navy beans are great for supporting the lungs, and in Chinese medicine, any kind of environmental allergies are connected to the lungs and a weakening in the lungs. So I would definitely say navy beans, lima beans, mung beans are also great to support the immune system. And even string beans can be helpful for any kind of digestive issues, for now that we're on the beans. And what was your other?
Can I interject something there, Heather? I like what you're saying, and again, I try to make things so simple. It just might be that my brain likes simple things, but when you're talking about the navy beans, the lima beans, supporting the lungs, I've seen multiple times on the internet where if we think of the organ that we're trying to support, oftentimes the fruit or vegetable that is shaped like that organ is actually what is most beneficial to that organ. So when you said navy beans and the lima beans and supporting the lungs, I was like, well, their shape is kind of lung-shaped. And then when you said the digestive system and you said string beans, you know, string beans are long and our digestive tract is a long thing that could resemble a string bean. So I just thought I would throw that out there for parents when they start to get overwhelmed. You know, there are some simple, logical things to remember, and I wouldn't be able to remember necessarily what beans were good, but I would go, oh, you know, if it's shaped like this, it must be good for the body. If it's shaped like a kidney, it must be good for the kidney. Anyway, that was just an aside that I thought about as you were describing those things. We were talking about what might be good for allergies, environmental allergens, if kids are having trouble trying to support their lung system. I just thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah,
you were mentioning things that look like the areas we were trying to take care of.
And that's definitely something that Chinese medicine, that's part of how they look at nutrition, because they even knew walnuts were good for brain function thousands of years ago without knowing that the high omega-3 content is what was supporting the brain, but walnuts look like the brain.
Exactly. The lumpy look of it.
And also pine nuts are great for helping with any kind of coughing or asthma.
Okay.
And then apples, I know we learned apple a day keeps the doctor away, but it's very true. It helps protect the lungs, especially in cases if you've been exposed to a smoker or if you live in a place like L.A. where there's a lot of air pollution. So that, again, would help prevent allergies because the healthier your body is, the more it's able to not be strongly affected by these pollutants or even naturally occurring substances like pollen. And apples you can actually treat pink eye or conjunctivitis with. if you make a little poultice and put it directly on the eye.
Oh,
is,
wow.
Kids tend to get pink eye more than adults.
They do. And you just crush up an apple and just put the
put it on the
right
eye. I mean, close the eye and let it.
Right, close your eye and just.
Yep.
Kind of like ladies do the cucumbers to make their puffy eyes go away, right? It's like
yes, exactly.
The apples are doing something. And you know that, again, when we got on apples, I thought about your recent blog post that I read about the vitamin C. Could you talk to us a little bit about vitamin C and its boosting properties for for the body?
Yes, vitamin C is something that helps reduce inflammation. It helps support the immune system. It helps with the integrity of your blood vessels, and it keeps your skin young. I know this is meant to be for kids, but we probably have a lot of moms listening that would like that.
Oh, yes, we all want to know that. We're all children inside. Okay, let's don't forget, we're all children inside. So
yes, exactly. So vitamin C, definitely getting from food is a great thing. Pretty much any fruit is going to be high in vitamin C. And oranges are actually not the highest. I know we've all been
believe
taught
that by the orange industry.
Yes, yeah, they definitely. It's not that they're low in vitamin C, but there's so many things that are really good.
That might be higher.
Bell pepper.
Who would have thought of bell pepper? Okay.
Yes. Guavas. I don't know if everyone listening has access to guavas. And herbs like thyme and parsley, cilantro. Those are all high in vitamin C. And then, again, dark greens like kale and spinach, watercress. They're all high in vitamin C. Broccoli and cauliflower are high in vitamin C. And then lemons are very high in vitamin C. So I always recommend my patients have lemon in their water, especially first thing in the morning, but something they can drink throughout the day because it's not only high in vitamin C, but it naturally kills bacteria. So that'll reduce your exposure to illnesses or bacteria that can make you sick. Strawberries are high in vitamin C.
Well, I think that's important for, I feel like a lot of America tends to, if we were to probably do a survey across America, I bet the country probably eats, the whole country would probably eat about 10% greens. We always think of kids, we can get the kids to eat the fruits and vegetables, but the greens, I think, when you just said all these greens, the spinach, the broccoli, the cilantro, the parsley, the thyme, they all have vitamin C in them, and I never think of those as my go-to things for vitamin C. I grab an orange, a grapefruit, a lemon, some berries. But again, if we can reinforce to parents that there are, here's another reason to make yourself go after the greens. They've got great vitamins and minerals in them, namely vitamin C here that's going to help boost the immune system. And so I think it's just great to reinforce with parents that it's great to go after the greens. And it's not that, I don't think we think about the fact that greens have vitamin C. And so that's encouraging to me. And now as I go shop, I'm going to go, oh, okay, you know what? I forgot that broccoli has vitamin C. I'm going to make some broccoli right now. I think I see a cold coming on. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's a really nice insight that I think a lot of people can take away as something they didn't necessarily think about or know about.
Yes, greens are one of those I consider superfoods, even though kale's becoming more trendy, but a serving of kale can actually have more vitamin C in it than a serving of melon. So you don't.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's with kids changing their palate so they like these foods, but also sneaking them in, pureeing them in soups or mixing them in with their smoothies, and start off with just a little bit and gradually add more. Is a great way to do it. And also mint is a great immune booster, so you can add some mint in there to give it some sort of sweet tanginess.
And there's probably, I don't know how many kinds of mint leaves there are out there. I know I've seen at least probably 12 different kinds of mint leaves. If people go to the Lowe's or Home Depot in their local area, you can get like an apple flavored one or this kind of spicy cinnamony flavored one. Have you seen those? I guess out in California, you guys are so far ahead of the East Coast as far as what you adopt. You're such early adopters out there on the West Coast. So, but I think it's good for parents to know that there's not. Again, one thing that I, as a health coach, try to promote is such variety. People get so stuck in ruts of, there's only this one little mint leaf, and I use that one, but there's actually like 12 different mint leaves. And when you talked about the pears being good for kids with asthma, I did a study at school one day with these children, and I took in the pears, and I showed them all the different kinds of pears, and we sampled probably like 7 or 8 different kinds of pears, and now these kids knew, oh, wow, so I'm hoping that the parents on the line, if your kid likes one kind of pear, go try the other 17 varieties,
Yeah.
Don't stick to one thing, but try to broaden the base of what everybody's eating and go with something that the child likes, such as a pear, something that has a sweet taste, a nice juicy, composition to it, and try the whole gamut of pears that are available in their local area. So, I'm sorry, I'm adding my 2 cents into what I'm thinking about what you do, but I love what you're sharing, and I'm hoping that, obviously the whole point of this Telesummit for the Healthy Kids Revolution is to give parents simple strategies to get better foods in their kids and stay away from the packaged processed foods,
my big recommendation for what should I feed my children is if there's a commercial for it, don't eat it.
I love it. I love it. That's
it's
so
not
true.
going to be good for you. Yes, exactly.
I'm writing that down. If there's a commercial for it,
don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Yes.
And I don't think
hopefully
realize.
that will change. That's good food. Like there'll be ads for kale and strawberries. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, if we all push, those of us that are activists for healthy eating, if we all push, at some point the pendulum will swing, and those that are in favor of natural, earthbound foods will hopefully, that's the vision for the future, we'll get back to that way of life of more healthy eating to sustain our culture. So I appreciate what you're doing on your efforts on your end to educate your patient base and, talking on the weekly radio show that you have, Live Natural, Live Well, the reach that you're having and the impact that you're having is, part of this whole process. So I just want to thank you again for that. It's so wonderful to have you on the call. And I think we're, I don't want everybody to feel like, I've got to sit here for an hour. But before we close, we've been on maybe, about 35 minutes. Is there something, we had a little question that I had written down about the difference in Chinese doing the vaccines versus the Western world and what we do with vaccines. Would you want to talk just briefly on that to give our audience a little insight?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, and this is a very personal decision. I know parents, they need to feel like they're making the best decision for their child when it comes to vaccines. I personally am not a fan of vaccines for many reasons. I've seen pretty much all but 2 of my autistic patients start to develop symptoms within a few months of vaccines. So, and the 2 that didn't were sisters. So I always wondered, like, if there was some sort of toxin exposure that triggered their autism. So I personally recommend just boosting your children's immune system on a daily basis and avoiding foods that make them that compromise their immune systems and can make them weaker is definitely important. So I know one of the ways to do that is, it's not really a food, but ginseng is a great immune booster. It's not something you want to take once you're sick, but it's great to do as a preventative. And then the foods that we talked about already in the program, there are Chinese herbs that aren't necessarily something you would eat, but are immune-boosting formulas to prevent getting sick. Like, I know, to share my own personal story, when I went to India about 12 years ago, I decided not to do any vaccines, And I just took herbs leading up to it and also while I was there to prevent getting sick, and I never got sick. I did, when I got home, get tested for some illnesses just to make sure that I was okay, because I was exposed to, like, sewage and fun stuff like that that can happen in India. But,
yes.
So, yeah, I would say just boosting your child's immune system every day. And if you have access to a doctor of Chinese medicine or someone like myself who does phone consultations for people all over the country, I can always send you herbs that are immune boosting. That would be ideal. But just avoiding things that are going to compromise your kid's immune system, like packaged food, fast food, sodas, avoiding sugar. Sugar's a big one, and I know a lot of parents come to me like, but my kid's already addicted, and I, like if I take it away from them, they're going to act out, and it's a matter of perseverance and discipline, and getting your children. You might have to do it gradually, but getting your children to appreciate the flavor of fruit over cookies. And it can be done once, if you've already have like an 8 or 10-year-old that, is used to having their cookies with lunch or their chocolate milk or ice cream after dinner. Slowly incorporating more fruit and taking away the things that are not going to support them. And it also hurts their brain function. Sugar is something that affects them developmentally. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And for those of you who have already done vaccines and you're concerned about the possible consequences or side effects, there's it's not Chinese. It's a homeopathic remedy called Thuja. That's Thuja. And that's something safe to give to kids, and it helps sort of detoxify the body of any possible chemicals they were exposed to when getting vaccines. And also giving them a daily dose of the leafy greens, because that'll help flush out any toxins from their liver.
Okay. Excellent. I think that's great. And I wanted to plug your website. I actually have that pulled up here right now while we're also talking, and you have a tab for Going Green. Doc Heather's got her healthy trends here. She's got Living Well Informed, also a section on nutrition, and I'm trying to see what else I'm wondering if we can, the people that subscribe to Blog Talk Radio can find you weekly, right?
I'm doing the show every other week.
Every other week, okay.
Every other week, and my last guest was Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China Study.
Yes,
anyone
love
who hasn't
him.
read that. Yes, if any of you haven't read it who are listening, I highly recommend it because it's incredibly important research. Yes, on the effects of diet in cancer. And I have pro basketball player champion John Sally, who played with Michael Jordan back in the day. He's doing my show. He's a very outspoken health advocate now. But all my past shows are downloadable on my website, so it's an option. And I do have a section on children on there. It's kind of simple, but it gives you an idea of how Chinese medicine can help your child.
Excellent. Well, I so appreciate you being on the call today. I think you've been a fantastic expert for us to have, and I hope that the people that are listening in today have gained a lot of simple things that they can actually implement now with their families. I bet they're making their grocery list right now, probably while the whole conversation was going on, marking down the superfoods to eat to feed their kids. And one note of point, in the presentation that I did that aired a few days ago, I talked about sugars. And actually, when you say that parents, we know parents are fighting the battles. That's probably the number one reason this telesummit was put together. But as you parents are fighting your battles, it doesn't have to be a battle. And like Doc Heather just said, you can just try to expose them to different things and start to limit their sugars. But what I have found in teaching children, and I teach children ages probably 6 to 12 mainly, and I teach them that sugars actually clog their receptors to their cells, and then good nutrition cannot get into their cells. And when children, and there's this body figure that we show all the children, and they understand that every organ in their body is made of cells. So the point is that not only do we need to encourage our children to do different things, but we need to educate our children. And they tend to love themselves. I think you mentioned something about this too, Heather, about, children don't have the same hang-ups that adults have. And when we reach the children at an early age and explain to them what sugars and dyes and chemicals do at the cellular level, using bouncy balls and Play-Doh and straw to show them this, the kids are much more compelled to change their eating habits. And the American Heart Association recommended that children, it was in their 2010 guidelines, they only revised them every 5 years, but their guideline for children was no more than 16 grams of added sugar a day. So for those of you who might have missed the other call, this is your benchmark, and this is the benchmark you should share with your children. 16 grams of added sugar. And 1 pack of Skittles, heaven knows who lets their children eat Skittles. My son does eat them sometimes. But 1 pack of Skittles has 44 extra sugars. So once you teach your children that number, they start to monitor their own eating habits. That's just what we're finding with the way we're teaching children. And so just wanted to throw that out again to the audience. I think the more we hear these specifics, the more that it's going to stay with everyone. And we all need rules and guidelines and boundaries. So, having that number is something to give us a guideline. So I appreciate you bringing up the sugars and how sugar can actually compromise our children's immune systems. And there's a great guideline.
And how they learn. They can't learn as well. They can't learn as well and do as well in school if they're eating sugar. So that hopefully motivates some parents. And again, it can be a struggle if your kid's already in the habit of having it regularly, but talking to them about it and making sure it's not seen as a punishment is a great way to start.
I like that. And we do have that issue of the problem in schools still where teachers are giving away candy as a reward. And it just drives me crazy. I'm like, you're kidding. Can't you give them a piece of kale? Where's a piece of spinach or a fruit kebab? But really, you're giving them a Jolly Rancher for good performance and good behavior. So our country has a long way to go. But again, it takes each of us just taking little baby steps and each of us just standing our ground a little firmer every day to make a difference. So I thank you for showing up on our interview today. I've got the last slide is up, and it has your beautiful photo. It has the website yes, you're welcome, to Live Natural, Live Well. Find Doc Holly. If you have any questions, you can find her under her contact information on her webpage. And we appreciate you being here, and we hope that we have some parents that are motivated to go feed their kids a lot healthier meals today from the Healthy Kids Revolution.
Great. Thank you so much, Carmen. You have a good day.
Yes. Thanks for being on. Okay, you take care.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.